What do you want to be when you grow up? Maybe that was a question that you were asked as a young child. Maybe you were asked that yesterday, okay? It's seldom answered in an accurate way in the future tense, but yet we're constantly in ourselves trying to find that answer of what we want to be when we grow up. But until we're grown up, we actually don't know that. But yet we try and get prescriptive paths, and we try and create career paths and professional journeys for ourselves. But what I'm here today to tell you is that it's okay to stray off of that path. It's okay to not follow the path that you said was going to be what you wanted to be when you grow up. So at some point, perhaps after high school, after you earn a college degree, you have a destination. You have that first job. You have the path outlined. And it may be straight initially, and it may look something like this. But you're not finished. That career journey will last sometimes 40 years. So how do you know if that's the end point? How do you know if that's what you want to be when you grow up? So to put some of this in context, I want to tell you a story about my father. He was born in 1936 in a small town in West Virginia. Only child of parents that stressed education. They knew he would go far. Initially, geographically, leaving his state of West Virginia to earn his undergraduate degree in mechanical engineering at the University of Kentucky. He would go on shortly after that to earn his master's degree in the same thing, mechanical engineering, at the University of Florida. New bride in arm, he would start his first job at 26 at a defense aerospace firm here in Florida. And for the next roughly 30 years, Ken Hanson would work diligently for his company and receive all the accolades. And his main project that he mostly focused his time on was developing warheads for surface-to-air ballistic missiles. And for those not in the know, those were the ones that would go up and intercept enemy combatants and threats from other countries and hopefully blow them up over the ocean. So for roughly 30 years, Ken Hanson would develop these warheads, prototype, test them, only to shelve it, to create the next one, to advance with technology and make sure that everything worked well, all of our families are safe, and we didn't have a next World War. So that was a fine job. He had all the trappings of a successful engineer career, beautiful house, the cars, the nice healthy 401ks, but he never liked what he did. He never enjoyed a day of work, okay? The reason is that he never saw any accomplishment. None of his designs were ever put into practice. He was never given any recognition. It was a highly confidential job, and he never got to see any of his work be put into practice, because if it had, it's World War III. We're at war, it's terrible times. So fortunately, that didn't happen, but if you're the designer of these warheads, you'd like to see them kind of used instead of just being put on a shelf and sworn never to talk about it. So at his earliest chance, he would retire in his mid to late 50s, just grumbling all the way, never liked a day of his work. And again, this is his first job. Stayed with it for 30 plus years, never liked it. He had great plans to travel, walk the beach, do some fishing, and then 3 or 4 years after retirement, he was diagnosed with lung cancer. And 2 years to the day after that, he died at age 64. So one of my conversations with him in the hospital, we were talking about work and what he did. And he told me, it's something that kind of stuck with me at the time, I was about 40. He said, you spend a lot of your life making a living. Make sure it's something you enjoy doing. And that kind of stuck with me. And he would go on later to say that he'd always wanted to be a math teacher. Certainly great with numbers, engineer, as you would expect. But he always wanted to be a math teacher. He was good at explaining things. And so here's a man literally on his deathbed, hated every day of his life, of his at least his work career, and wanted to be a math teacher at a fraction of the salary. So that kind of stuck with me. Now, again, to put this in context, let's roll the tape back about 15 years. So I'm in my 20s. I'm kind of opting for the 8-year plan on my 4-year degree at the University of South Florida. And during that time, I would have multiple majors. Starting in engineering, I thought, well, that's what my dad did. Looks like he's done well with it. I should be doing that. And then came engineering calculus, which was a cold slap in the face. It's not like business calculus. And it earned me my only F in my college career. So my career plan had pivoted, had taken a detour, and I would go through multiple majors, eventually landing in the School of Business, earning a management degree. I thought, I'll probably do something in business. I'll probably manage people. That sounds like it makes sense. And if nothing else, it gave me some focus to finish something I started. So at age 30, fresh degree in hand, I would graduate and go on to work with a company in the Midwest. Now, in my 20s, before I graduated, I had a series of jobs. You can see some of them on the slide here. Some of these were just to pay the bills. Others were testing out career paths that I thought I might like. But none of it was time wasted. It was, again, all during when I was going to school. I needed to work. I needed to go to school. And sometimes I'd take a few semesters off and work a little bit to try something. You know, I sold for traveling sales. I was in a veterinary hospital for quite a while. I actually owned my own business. But none of them were kind of my final destination. None of them were what I wanted to be when I grew up. So with degree in hand, I landed a job at Purina at age 30, okay? And I didn't really get that job because of the degree, even though that was some of a mandatory requirement. But I got that job because of the experience I had with veterinarians and veterinary hospitals. Again, part of that long list of jobs that I had, one of them was in a veterinary practice. And so I knew veterinarians, I knew how to talk with them, I knew pet food, I can talk to the staff, I had done their job. And so that made me the front runner for this position, which pointed me to the Northeast, my first stop. And so rundown car and a couple of wild bird dogs moved up to the Northeast to pursue my new career path, okay? I had just exited off the rural side roads and onto the career highway. So I would stay at Purina, achieving exceedingly more responsibilities and well-paid titles, mostly in sales, managing salespeople, building $500 million brands like Dog Chow, and learned an awful lot. And then in 2004, after 15 years with a company that I thought I was going to retire with, family reasons brought me back to my home state of Florida, okay? I had just taken a hard exit off my career path, okay? And so that exit was somewhat unplanned. That exit forced me to kind of fall back on consulting. I thought, well, I'll do that till I get a real job, okay? And so the consulting business worked well. It provided me the opportunity to interact with a lot of businesses and people and things like that. Learned a lot, but I was kind of the paid expert. Because of all the things I had done and because of my experience with Purina, I now had a wealth of knowledge that I wanted to share with people. And so what the consulting business also brought out was somewhat of an empathy for these clients. And the reason it brought that out is because I had done so many things and I had been exposed to so many people, I kind of knew what they were doing. If I'm training salespeople, I had sold before. If I'm talking to veterinarians and veterinary staff, I had been in that position. If I'm designing something with an agency for a marketing piece, I had been a graphic artist for a print shop, so I knew the design world. So again, all of those things were preparing me for what I was doing then, all right? What I also enjoyed was bringing out the best in people and coaching. And so probably about 6 or 7 years ago, I was in DeLand and looking at this beautiful campus, and I thought, maybe I'll try my hand at teaching. Also kind of thinking back to what my dad once said. And so I took a role as an adjunct professor, really enjoyed it, okay? And so that, that led to a full-time position here at Stetson doing what I do today. So that's kind of the short version of my career path. And I'm not saying that it's something that I would wish on everyone, but it worked for me. Everything kind of got me to where I am today. Everything provided experiences, everything provided knowledge and talents and connections and people that got me where I am today. Am I saying don't have a goal? Definitely not. I applaud those that at a very young age are focused on a certain career path, they stay with it, and they end up doing that for the rest of their careers, okay? But it's okay to not have a prescriptive plan. It's okay to deviate. It's okay to take rest stops on your journey. So if there's 5 things that I could leave you with, I think I would leave you with these. The first is to be patient, okay? Be patient with yourself. Be patient with your plan. Let things evolve. Trust in the process, okay? Everyone wants to have that dream job and that career and everything that comes with it today. Sometimes you just have to be patient and let it evolve. Sometimes opportunities are awaiting you if you'll just give it some time. The second piece of advice I would give you is to embrace your plan B. I've got several well-known people up here that didn't start out doing what we know them for today. Abraham Lincoln holds several patents for buoyancy devices for riverboats. He was a boat builder. Pope Francis started out as a bouncer in a nightclub in Buenos Aires. Global fashion designer Vera Wang always wanted to be a figure skater. And even Harrison Ford was discovered working on set as a carpenter and pursued his acting career when he was given a chance. So you can have your plan A, but if some opportunities come along, that might be better. So embrace it. Okay? Next is detours have their messages and meanings. During the period of time when I was consulting, I was out of a job. I had been aligned with a company that was going through some mergers, and I was laid off at 58. That was a kick in the gut, okay? It was a hard detour. That's a road closed, turn around detour when you're laid off at 58. But shortly thereafter, just by happenstance, I had a client here in DeLand. I was talking to them about some things. They knew someone at Stetson, and that whole serendipitous detour provided me an opportunity to talk with folks at the School of Business and provided a path to where I am today. So detours have their messages and meanings. Sometimes you don't understand it when it happens, but you get it later in hindsight. Next is everything is preparing you for what's next. Purina was a wonderful place to learn marketing. Dogs and cats don't carry wallets, and people don't buy the pet food. So you got to be a pretty good marketer to make your product stand out in an entire aisle of products. But that skill that I learned and that craft that I learned with 15 years at Purina was not time wasted. I earned a good living consulting in marketing. I teach graduate marketing to MBA students now, and I'm often called upon to lecture on marketing topics. I didn't know it at the time. I had no idea I would be teaching it. I thought I would have a career in marketing, but I had no idea that academics would be one of my last chapters and one of my last stops on my career journey. So you don't always know it at the time, but had I gone into academics early without that kind of training ground, I would not be the teacher I am today. Have I written a textbook? Am I tenured? Do I have a PhD? No, no, and hell no, okay? But I am pretty good at what I do, and I enjoy it. Next, don't drive straight through. Whether it's a spring break trip or a trip across the country, your mother will always tell you, don't drive straight through. Take a stop, take a rest break. Give yourself a chance to breathe a little bit. The same holds true on your career path. If you jam it through and don't give yourself a break, a mental break, a break from the plan, you will burn out. If you burn out, you will not be receptive to the opportunities that come your way. So give yourself an opportunity to catch your breath and take a break. So in closing, I would say that, again, my path is not one I would wish on anybody. It's got a lot of twists and turns. It's got a lot of detours. It's got a lot of roadblocks. Many times I thought, this is it. And many times something else happened to pivot that path. But it has made me who I am today. It has made me pretty good at what I do, and I wouldn't change a thing. So the next time someone asks you, what do you want to be when you grow up? Maybe it was 10 years ago. Maybe it's 10 years from now. And in those 20 years, you'll be very different. So why shouldn't your career aspirations and your answer to that question be different? So probably the best answer when someone asks you the childhood question of what do you want to be when you grow up is simply to say, happy. Thank you.